YouTube? My name is Scott, and welcome to another instant review. We're going for WandaVision, Episode 8. Now, I'm going to be honest, this isn't exactly an instant review, because this episode was pretty awesome, and I watched it twice to make sure I wouldn't miss anything. But I didn't take notes either time, so we can see how well that's going to go. This episode was different right from the beginning. You get the usual Marvel Studios opening, but right at the end, it turns purple. And that's how you know we're going to get an interesting little look at Agatha Harkness's backstory. And wouldn't you know it, since she's a witch, it had to start in Salem, Massachusetts in 1693. Agatha is on trial, it seems like, because her coven doesn't seem to like the fact that she practiced evil magic. Who would have thought? And she claims that she just needs to be taught and that she's a good person, but I, to be honest, I love the way Kathryn Hahn played this, because I don't know for sure whether or not she was serious. Because her sentence is apparently to be executed via magic, which all of the other witches take part in. And Agatha's getting hit with blue beams, writhing in pain on this stake that she's magically bound to. And given what we'd seen of her in the future, I really thought she was going to start laughing maniacally before destroying everyone, but she doesn't. As the magic is hitting her, her powers manifest as purple, as they have before, and drain the life out of her entire coven. I don't know if they drain the magic too, but it seems likely, right? And she goes up to the head of the coven, whom she was calling Mother, and plucks the brooch that she's wearing at the base of her throat. Or is it a cameo? I'm not entirely sure. And obviously she keeps it, because she's been wearing it in every incarnation of herself in every episode. Cut to the present, she's still wearing it there, and she's petting her rabbit, Senor Scratchy, and talking to it, which either means that she's crazy, or that rabbit is her familiar. And she basically says to Wanda, "Hi, I'm Agatha, I'm a powerful witch, you can't read my mind, you can't do magic here, so don't bother. Oh, by the way, I have your twins hostage, so let's find out how you're so powerful." Because the magic that Wanda has performed, Agatha doesn't even know how she's capable of doing it. Something the size of the Hex, most of which is running on autopilot, apparently shouldn't be possible, and Agatha wants to know. So she plucks a hair from Wanda's head, does a little magic, and opens a literal door in the wall into one of Wanda's memories. Specifically, the day her world turned upside down. See, back in the past, in their apartment in Sokovia, where Wanda and Pietro were kids, her dad was apparently a salesman of DVD box sets of classic TV sitcoms. And the family would get together on TV night to watch them, and by pure coincidence, TV night is the night when they only speak English. Thank goodness for us. Wanda gets the choice of episode, and she picks the Dick Van Dyke Show, which the first episode of WandaVision was clearly based on, right down to the identical kitchen and near-identical living room, and of course the opening sequence. She picks that show, Season 2, Episode 21. And I looked that up. That's a little bit of a flaw on somebody's part. Because the episode that they watch is one where Dick Van Dyke's character Rob has a bad dream about Earthlings being taken over by aliens. But that episode, according to Google and IMDb, is actually from Season 2, Episode 20. I mean, I'd like to see if they're going to work the disparity in, but how? And while they're all watching the episode having fun, that's when the place blows up. And eventually, of course, Wanda and Pietro are under the bed with the unexploded Stark missile, like Wanda mentioned in Age of Ultron. What she didn't mention was that the TV and DVD player were somehow still working, and they see the end of the episode. And Wanda says to herself, as a child, because Agatha made her, relive this as her younger self, you get to the end of the episode, you realize it was all just a bad dream. And as she's reaching out towards the missile for some reason, Pietro pulls her back. No, not Pietro. Agatha pulls her back, and she's an adult again. Because that's not getting Agatha what she wants. It doesn't explain how Wanda could have created the Hex. So, behind door number 2 is Wanda's time in Hydra, when she was experimented on. Apparently this experiment just involves participants coming in and touching the Mind Stone. And until Wanda did it, every single one who tried it died. But as Wanda walks into the room, the Mind Stone actually detached itself from Loki's scepter and flew towards her. and when she touched it, it changed from a bright blue, roundish thing to the actual, even brighter yellow, glowing Mind Stone. And Wanda sees a vision, nice, of what looks like herself in her whole Scarlet Witch getup, pardon me, before passing out. And as the scientists are trying to figure out what's going on, because apparently they couldn't see it, and there's no video evidence because the video cuts from when she walks in to when she's lying on the ground, Wanda's sitting in her cell watching the Brady Bunch. So Agatha realizes, okay, the Mind Stone unlocks your powers, but that still doesn't explain everything. So behind door number 3 is a look into Avengers compound. This is right after Age of Ultron. So Pietro's dead, Wanda's in a new country, doesn't really know what she's doing, and enter Vision, who talks to her and obviously helps her to feel better. And clearly doesn't understand comedy because she's watching an episode of Malcolm in the Middle, and he doesn't understand why it's funny when an entire porch roof fell on Bryan Cranston. That's funny no matter what, let's face it. Agatha realizes it's close, but not close enough. And then Wanda, I think, uses her power and opens the final door. This is the door to Sword headquarters. Now, I want to point out that Director Hayward told people that Wanda broke into Sword headquarters and stole Vision's body. That is not what happened. She did kind of break into Sword headquarters, but Hayward showed her how they were taking Vision's body apart. All she wanted to do was bury it, but he obviously couldn't let her do that with $3 billion worth of vibranium, especially since, he didn't mention Project Cataract. So Wanda breaks her way down into where they're taking Vision apart and tries to sense him, but she can't. And it's actually really kind of moving. And she just walks out. She didn't steal Vision's body, she just left. She got in her car, unsurprisingly red, and drove to New Jersey. She drove to Westview. Now, Westview, I'm sure, was a nice enough town, but at this point, it was looking like pretty run down. A lot like Hill Valley in 1985 and Back to the Future, or the town in Jumanji after Robin Williams comes back. And as she's driving, she sees people on the street that are, the ancillary characters from each episode. There's Herb, and did Deborah Jo Rupp's character have a name? I can't remember now. Yeah. And she gets to this one spot, 2800 Sherwood Road, which is the address of the house, and I'd like to think a reference to Sherwood Schwartz. I think he was the guy who created the Brady Bunch. There's no house there. It's an empty lot with a foundation. And Wanda falls to her knees in the middle of that foundation, and her grief and rage and magic all seem to combine at once. And she just explodes out and creates the house around her. And then, with another huge explosion, actually even bigger, obviously, it spreads through the entire town of Westview, rewriting all of that reality and bringing it back to the beginning of the very first WandaVision episode. There's an interesting reference in there. The movie theater, you see a shot of it before it transforms. And before it does, one of the names on the marquee is Tannhauser Gate. And that's a reference to Blade Runner, specifically a speech that Rutger Hauer's character gave before he died. I'm not sure of the significance because I gotta be honest, I haven't fully seen Blade Runner. Please don't kill me. But anyway, back at the house, the last bit of Wanda's magic explosion, if you will, recreates Vision right in front of her. And, everything's black and white, and she's happy, he's alive. She transforms herself into the late 50s version of her that was at the beginning. He says, "Wanda, welcome home." They sit down on the couch together, and as they kiss, you see present Wanda behind them. And she looks up and realizes that it's all a set. Like, she's literally on a soundstage. And Agatha is sitting in the audience by herself, sarcastically clapping and saying, "Bravo." Wanda hears her twins screaming, and when she runs outside, Agatha's got them hostage. She's got purple magic wrapped around their necks, holding them for some reason, levitating off the ground for some even weirder reason, I'm sure. And she tells Wanda that apparently she's like the stuff of legend, a magical being who's capable of spontaneous creation. And she says it, and Agatha says, "You are the Scarlet Witch." Roll credits. I guess it just wasn't enough that it was kind of a cool name, you know? Now, I want to talk about some stuff before I get into the post-credit scene, because it was really awesome the way this kind of went back and tied things together. Like the commercials. So, we know about the unexploded bomb being the Stark toaster in the first commercial, and how that toaster looked like Vision, had a blinking red light, like the blinking red light on the bomb for some reason. And if you know your comics, you know that Wanda usually called Vision Toaster as an affectionate nickname. And then, of course, there's that very disturbing Yo Magic commercial, which goes with the scene where Wanda's watching Malcolm in the Middle, because that commercial happened during the episode that is based on Malcolm in the Middle. And I think it was interesting that you have a little boy with red hair wearing red, kind of an amalgam for Wanda, being talked to by a much taller character wearing a shark who, you know, is obviously gray, and Vision was wearing all gray in that scene. And I think my Just Had a Thought video was way off about that. I think it was Wanda realizing that, you know, she needed her magic, because without using magic to try to control her grief, she was going to die. Which is why Yo Magic is a snack for survivors. But the third one, that's the one I love, okay? So, she was watching the Brady Bunch right after touching the Mind Stone unlocked her power, okay? The Brady Bunch themed episode was from the 70s. And it had that commercial with a woman who's completely overwhelmed with her life and wishing she could get away, and suddenly finding herself in a fantasy world. Taking a bubble bath with brand new Hydra Soak, with the tagline, "Free the Goddess Within." You gotta love how it all came together like that. Or more to the point, how they wrote it to come together like that. But we're not done, because of course there was a mid-credits scene. As I mentioned, you know, Hayward and Sword, they never gave up Vision's body. They had been putting it back together and trying to get him running again. And it turned out all they needed was some of Wanda's power through that drone that they sent in, that Wanda threw back at them, that was still crackling with energy. And that's another one of those things that all came back together, because as you may recall, it was called, the whole idea was called Project Cataract. And what do you have if you have cataracts? You have bad vision. So clearly there's going to be a showdown with bad Vision, because he's back, and he is definitely not the same. And personally, I just can't wait to see what happens next. So much like you, I will be waiting all week with bated breath for episode 9. And until my next review, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.